We are live from Red Shirts Remastered Studios, aka my basement and Spencer's bedroom. And we are giving you the hard-hitting information that you need about Starfield, folks. It is officially Starfield release day. It releases in about 3 hours to the Game Pass public and the buying public who didn't get the early access. But we have the scoop for you on early access. I'm here with fellow Red Shirt Dingus. How you doing, Dingus?
Oh, I'm doing great. Ready to talk about some of the Starfield.
Ready to talk about Starfield. So, you have been playing Starfield early access. I have a question for you.
Oh, you do?
Do you value free time?
Do I value free time? Of course. I mean...
But you're playing Starfield.
Well, Starfield is my free time nowadays.
Exactly.
I guess I don't have any free time anymore.
You do not. Next question! How much did you have to uninstall to be able to play Starfield?
I did a bit of uninstalls a while ago, actually, so... But... It is a chunky game, but it's one of those games I'd say is definitely worth the install. If you can, install it.
Excellent. I, too, did not have to uninstall anything. Ha! Now we go to the story. The experience. Tell us, is the story Oscar-worthy?
Oscar-worthy? I can't say it's the closest game I've ever gotten involved with, I could say. You know, most closely involved, I'd say, with the story I've gotten. However, it still is really good from what I've played so far. There's a great mystery that's going all along with it, and once you get to a certain point, it really opens up, and it just makes you go, okay, it's kind of hard to stop playing this story, so I definitely recommend the story.
But not Oscar-worthy.
Well,
Bethesda?
We all know the Oscars wouldn't accept a story like this anyway. You know, they all have sticks up their butts anyway. But you know, that's beside
Too
the
true,
point.
Dingus. Too true. Now on to the side quests. Are they Emmy-worthy? Because, you know, side quests are like the TV shows to the movie of the main quest. You know what I mean?
I mean, sure, why not? I mean, as you get in any Bethesda game, there's so many great side quests, right? Like, look at Skyrim, and you have so many different side quests, you know, different lines you could do. You know, you could pick a side in the war, you know, all sorts of other stuff you could do in Skyrim. And I feel like Starfield is much of the same way, of all sorts of different factions you could join. They don't limit how many things you could join. Like, you could have, like, a starting bonus with, I think, one of the traits with them or whatnot. But, like, it's great because there's so many different factions you could do, and eventually they will actually try to like rope you into them as well. And so being like, hey, this is a thing for you to do. And so it's really interesting to see all the different sort of side quests there are, all the different variety within. A lot of the side quests do help delve into a lot of the variety the game has to offer. So yeah, side quests are really good so far, and literally everywhere.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You walk by a door, a person, pick up a book. You got a side quest, folks. Just like
yeah. And not particularly a side quest, but I've had something pretty great happen too, to where I was just flying around in space. Like I grav jumped to a planet because I was doing a whole surveying mission, and I got stopped by a random vehicle and ended up being like a tour company. Like a space tours company, and they had guests lined up to ask me questions. It was hilarious.
Oh, that is fantastic. And, you know, there was that amazing one about a tree. Gotta love that side quest. That was such a fun one. Such a fun one. I know you're in the middle of that one right now.
I did do that one, actually, yes. That was so random.
Well, you know, that moves on to my next comment / question. Man, eat your heart out, Scorsese. This sounds like a fantastic amusement park style adventure. And I'm all for it. Screw you, Scorsese.
Oh, yeah. Well, lots of fun to be had.
Now, we all know about the great character customization Bethesda usually brings. But tell me, is this Baldur's Gate 3 level customization? It is 2023 after all.
Oh. That's a good one. I guess I suppose they're both pretty close. I suppose. I mean, one doesn't stand out above the other than Baldur's Gate has a lot of different race options, right? But
Hmm.
and that's being expanded with mods, and this will too. So, but I feel like all the other stuff is mainly, I feel like the same. There's nothing that really stands out other than one, you're building a D&D character versus the other is all sorts of different traits. And so, but as far as looks go, I feel like they both give you a lot of uh, uh, uh really like a lot to really work with.
So you would say the competition is stiff.
Oh, absolutely. I
Uh,
mean, if you're on PC at least, because that seems like the best place to play either game probably. But especially
so
since
you're
Baldur's Gate.
saying, wait,
Wait,
Baldur's
wait.
Gate 3, you're saying they're on par.
Hmm.
So wait, I can have a penis or a vulva in Starfield?
Ah, you know what? How dare Bethesda leaves this out?
Oh
Why
man.
didn't Why didn't we get custom penises in Starfield? That what a mistake! What a
Damn
mistake!
it.
What were you
All right.
thinking, Todd Howard, leaving out penises?
Damn it, Todd. Damn it. Anyway, but just tell us about your your personal creation experience as a Picasso of a character. Was it
Picasso.
enjoyable?
Yeah. I definitely made somebody. That's for sure. Made a character that I don't know. I went with like with a little bit of a different look than I usually go for in most of these kinds of
Hmm.
games, and I don't know if I like it. I'm actually probably going to change it before
Uh-oh.
long because I guess I don't know. It just looks weird to me sometimes with the way it is, because it wasn't the original intent that I had to go across with the character, and so but it
Hmm.
there's lots of different great services in the game though, and without going too much into it, there is one that you can go and pay to change how your character looks. So
Yes, yes.
we'll take advantage of that sooner than later.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, we won't name the name of the place that you have to go to do that, but there is a place.
Yes.
So what
So
about skills? Your character
skills,
has to, as the kids say these days, get good, right?
get good. Well, hey,
So
as long as you can aim good with that weapon, you're fine, right? But no, there's all sorts of great different skills in the game. It's great too with the character customization. You can choose these different backgrounds. You automatically get 3 skills unlocked, and then you can. It's a nice mixture that the skills have in between Fallout and Skyrim too. That I really find too, because it does have kind of like a perk based system like Fallout has, but then you can upgrade those perks and upgrade them again after you do a particular challenge, like you actually having to do stuff like how you up your skills in Skyrim. And so it's a really nice mix that I really enjoy.
fantastic. And speaking of mix, why don't you give us a little kind of insight, maybe not obviously no spoilers here, just on
Mhm.
kind of the way the skill trees do and work, I guess.
Yeah, so each one has, I believe it's 4 different tiers. You have to upgrade the top tier so many times, like 4 or 5 times, before you can go on to the next tier, and so on and so forth. And they're each divided into their own categories. Like one's like your more like sort of social, and then one's your combat. There's one that's more based on like your like planet exploration and being able to craft certain things and modify certain objects. So, um, and then there's a whole other one based on like your ship skills and there's one other that's more like physicality traits, I believe. And so there's like 5 different of these trees, which are really nice.
So sounds, dare we say, like a traditional Bethesda game. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Oh
if
my.
it's Bethesda back in a new world, right? If you're it's feels very much like a Bethesda game. If it's I know, right? Quite crazy to think about it. That a Bethesda game feels like a Bethesda game, but it is, right? And so uh and I think that goes without saying to where if you're not a fan of Bethesda, like you've tried Fallout, not your cup of tea, you've tried Elder Scrolls, not your cup of tea, I'd say it's a little more like Fallout than Elder Scrolls, but it definitely has some components that it takes from Elder Scrolls, I'd say, as though, like how they mix some parts of like the skill tree with it. And so, but if you're not a fan of either of those at all, you're not. This isn't your cup of tea, right? And that's completely fine. Not everything is everybody's cup of tea.
Tea. Sorry. Anyway, what about NPCs? Conversations with them, and is your character able to,
Oh, sometimes, we'll just say it doesn't always work
okay.
that way, but
Oh,
I must say that I've found to really like the cast of NPCs it gives you, especially like around the story and all the different followers you can get. It's really great. I've found myself really liking the characters, and uh, there's some great story choices that comes along later on in the game too. Once you really get close to those characters, and yeah, before I say anything else, it's just
yeah. Don't spoil
No,
anything.
don't
The game
spoil
comes
anything.
out in a couple
Exactly.
hours for the peons. Right. So you have your character. Anything else you want to tell us about your dingus?
My dingus? It is named Dingus. Haha.
Mm.
But yeah, no. I feel like that's a good.
All right. So you have your character. You are in space, right? And there
Yeah.
are planets in space, right?
Whoa, that's crazy. I thought there's planets in
I know.
space, right? Absolutely wild.
Right. So you can go to Mars and
Yeah.
walk around and talk to Martians.
Well, and sadly, not really. I mean, there's no Marvin there. Sadly, there's no.
Why does his name have to be Marvin? Why can't his name be John?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Just Marvin, man.
And
Marvin's the
what
Martian name.
people who live on Mars aren't they Martians? So anybody that lives there, are there not people living there?
I don't. Is there people that live there? That's a good question, actually.
Yes, remember there's there's an industry there, correct?
Oh, okay, yeah.
You don't remember? Damn it, Spencer. Damn it. This is the worst interview ever.
I know.
I mean,
terrible.
Okay, so you can go to Mars. What about Mount Olympus? You got to be able to go to the Mount Olympus volcano there, right?
That's a very good question. I'd be surprised if Bethesda does have that included, and I think it'd be props to them if they do have that included. That'd be absolutely amazing. Plus, I think there's a chance that they do, especially because I know that they did work with NASA on a lot of the stuff, and I think that's really good. I guess a little segue into a little bit of whenever I actually did go to the moon felt amazing to go on to explore, even though it is just literally a hunk of rock, right? But
yeah,
it really captures your imagination of like, oh, this is how it is to be on the moon, right? Like, it's kind of like, what little kid hasn't thought about how it would be to be on the moon, right? And not only just the moon, but this game does a great job of a realistic exploration, kind of all across all sorts of different planets, right? But you really feel it there on the moon, because it's like, oh yeah, I feel like that's something that about everybody's kind of dreamed of at once. Like, how would it be to be on the moon? And it feels great, and it looks so good too.
But I heard that there are invisible force fields set up on every planet. Is that true? Do you need powers to get through them?
Invisible force fields? Yeah. So what happens there is that there's an invisible rope that appears whenever you land your ship and then walk away. You can only go so far away from their ship, right? However, you can go a pretty far distance away. I found myself, anytime I land on a planet or moon or whatever, you go down, you do these surveys, you do all these different, find these locations of interest, and I've never found myself to where I've gone too far away and reached this boundary when trying to find something there, right? Because typically, I look around for everything that I need there, right? Because then, to a certain extent, it just becomes more of the same thing, right? I don't need to be there any longer, right? If I've already climbed everything that I've gone there for. Unless, I guess, if I'm trying to, like, mine something specifically, I guess. But, like, even then, if I'm trying to pick up that much stuff, I'd be encumbered very quickly. But But yeah, I found that it gives you a large play space while supposedly there is these invisible walls. I can't confirm that. I've seen it. I can't confirm it though. And so I've never once ran into it, and I've had times to where I go very far and I think, wow, okay. Like I've never gone far enough to think like I'm gonna backtrack what I said there. I've gone far enough to where I think that I'd get close to one, but I think it does give you a pretty good area though. Because I've had times where it feels like I run minutes on end, just trying to get to a location, and I've never hit this so-called wall.
Mm. So the whiny babies are just being whiny babies.
Something like that.
Okay. Hmm. Such a shame that it's the world we live in. Now, there are rumors that this game plays a lot like No Man's Sky in regards to planets. How would you respond to those allegations?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you go down to a planet that has a lot of No Man's Sky feels, I think the best way to describe this game to somebody is it's No Man's Sky meets Outer Worlds or Fallout, I'd say. And so, you have those feels where you go down on a planet and you just open up your scanner as you do any planet and you just scan away, finding all these different new things, and it's great having it's a really nice way of the No Man's Sky sort of feels, right? Uh, but in a much more realistic setting, right? So it definitely does have huge No Man's Sky inspirations, and you even take out a laser to mine stuff, right? And so it definitely has those inspirations for sure. But I don't think that's a knock on the game, right? They both
Yeah.
do their job great. They both approach the ways that you do things differently, right? The biggest thing is, No Man's Sky doesn't have those boundaries, but at the same time, I'd argue that those planets are a more lackluster compared to
Yes.
what Starfield has. So, it's a little bit of
Agreed.
a give and take, right?
Hmm.
However, I both think they do a great job at what they set out to achieve. Because I think at the end of the day, one's meant to be more of an open sandbox versus one's meant to be something more narratively driven while also being a huge open sandbox.
Yeah, it's best of both worlds. And
Yes.
on
Yes.
those worlds, there are cities too: New Atlantis,
Oh,
Aquila City,
yes.
Neon. Am I forgetting any? Those are the three main ones, correct?
I believe so.
Now, my next question is a two-parter.
Okay.
Which is your favorite city? And if it is not Neon, why not?
Well, I'd say New Atlantis is my favorite, but that's also the one
Oh,
I've been around the most too, so
yeah.
I guess there's a bit of bias there. But I think what's so special about that one compared to the other is I'm not saying I didn't have this feeling to a degree with the others, because I certainly did, especially with Neon. But that moment to where you first land at New Atlantis, I think is such a magical gaming moment, right?
Mhm.
I
It
think it's
is.
like this game's equivalent version of like in Breath of the Wild when you first get out of that cave and you see all of Hyrule, right?
Well,
It's
yeah,
that
leaving the
time.
vault in Fallout,
Right,
is the
right,
same thing,
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And so obviously
Exiting the cave in
there's other things
Skyrim.
you do. Right. And so obviously you've done plenty of other stuff before there, but that I feel like was meant to be the first big cinematic. Well, there was other big cinematic like other moments before it too,
Yeah.
but like that was the
Yes.
first one where it really made me just go like, holy crap, wow, this is amazing, right? Going down, you see that massive blue tower in the center of it all,
Yeah.
being such a great centerpiece, such a nice futuristic city. It feels so nice too of being such a nice big open city too, and being able to
Yeah.
go
The
around,
train
and
system and everything.
that's
And you
really
don't
nice.
have to take the train system if you don't
You don't
want
have
to.
to. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
great. They give you so many options to do around the place. There's all
Hmm.
I feel like all the shops and places are all really spread out nicely, and all the different things you could do there. It's a really nice hub area, possibly the best Bethesda hub area.
I'll agree with that one. Definitely. Definitely the best Bethesda hub area I've ever played in. Um, Now, let's get to the fun parts: the pew
Okay.
pew, the
Pew
blood,
pew pew
the
pew.
gore, the killing. Excuse me. So, how is the gunplay?
It feels nice. I really like the faster sort of combat, so I feel like uh it takes kind of like a little more resource management as something like Fallout does, but it mixes it with something faster, kind of like Doom, right? There's a big misconception
Mhm.
when this game was coming out when they showed that and they said, "Oh, id Software is helping with us," but people automatically thought gunplay when that wasn't the case. However, they
Yeah.
did a great job of making a faster gunplay on their own, and plus, as you go on and you get the abilities to mod stuff more and being able to add stuff to your guns, it just adds so much more to it, right? Adding, like I said, that perfect mix of the Fallout gunplay, which is already great gunplay, to something that's a little faster and something that's personally up my speed a little more.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm like I like to play that little bit of as Gollum does, sneaky sometimes in games
Mm-hmm.
like this, and the sneaking system is definitely something I'm really enjoying. The meter, it really works well once you unlock it.
Oh, I
And
need to have a.
yeah, unlock the sneaking meter
That's the
for
thing,
sure.
though. I'm the run-in guns blazing
Yeah, and
guy,
that's the
so
thing. Your balls
I'm
to the
not.
wall, and
I'm
I
not
love it.
right.
Love
But
it.
I'm
But
very
and
interested in
that's the
seeing
great
that.
thing about this game though, is you can do
Absolutely.
both throughout the whole game because one mission could be sneak. It's just
Yes.
yeah. And
So many options.
speaking of sneaking, tell everybody about the lock picking in the game.
Lockpicking? Last time I checked, there isn't lockpicking, but there's digipicking.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Oh yeah, because digipicking also hacks computers, blah blah.
All
Whatever.
right.
All
Anyway,
right, yes. Tell us
so
about the digipicking, Mr. Semantics.
it's great. It really has. It's like a nice, really cool, fun mini game, right? And I mean,
Mhm.
all the lock pickings are in their own way, right? Because you're used to when Skyrim and Fallout, you have like that those lock picking, right? You have to get your
The
picks
Tumblr
line
system. Yep.
right and get them all lined up as you want to. Versus this, it's a bit more of a mini game where you have to. There's these circles and you have to line up these blocks to go into the holes of the circles. And if I remember right, it's something kind of like what like a Star Wars Skywalker saga kind of has like these little
Oh
mini games like this.
yeah.
And so
Yes.
it's kind of like that to a bigger degree. And they do it really cool. I like that was one of those things to where it's like I really like that mini game in Skywalker Saga, that
Mhm.
different computer system. But like it's just
Yep.
easy, right? But it makes sense. It's a kids game, and so it makes sense. I had no problem with it because of that. But it's like I really enjoyed these. So seeing those on a bigger degree, harder scale, like it really. I feel like it also scales well too, in between the different degree levels of difficulty as well.
Yeah, with expert and master and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
agreed.
And so it feels really nice. I think it's definitely the best Bethesda lock picking system. Maybe even the best lock picking system ever, I guess. Because I
Interesting.
guess before that, I'd consider Skyrim the main. But if I'm saying I like this more than Skyrim, then I guess that
Yeah,
puts it over it. So,
interesting. Yeah, yeah, I like it better than Fallout,
Mhm.
and I like it better than Skyrim. So yeah, I'd agree with you there. Now moving on more back to combat, because lock digi picking kind of has to do with that. You can turrets and getting doors open so you get the.
Mhm.
But back to the really about combat, are the NPCs helpful, or would a mop do just as well? And hey, man, a mop is versatile.
You know what? First off, you're not wrong. All right, a mop can be a man's best friend. Second off, uh, second off, it's if you set up your NPCs right, they will be helpful. Key is making sure they're set up right. That means making sure they have the proper gun equipped, that you can pick whatever they use, and make sure that they have ammo for the gun, or else they're just gonna run up and knife everybody.
Otherwise, start punching them and someone and punching them.
That being said though, that option number two isn't always bad because it's a nice distraction sometimes.
That's true. That is true.
So with that being said, I think they're solid NPCs.
Yeah.
The most annoying thing about them isn't in combat. It's whenever they stand in the fucking doorway on their ship.
Doorways.
The fucking
Yes.
doorway, and they're like, "Let me
Oh, boy.
through." I've had
Right.
it happen
Yeah.
to me like I think a couple times now, where one just would not move when I'm trying to get to my cockpit, and I'm like, "Oh my god, just let me fly my ship."
Now, tell us, what is Dingus's favorite killing tool in the game?
Oh, I am heavily biased towards pistols in these games, especially the fast firing pistols.
Mm-hmm.
And using an upgraded, modified version of the starting pistol is my favorite. And I think
Okay.
that just goes to show how much of it, any weapon can be good as long as, you build towards that, right? Because, yeah, I have it to where I do more ballistic damage and more pistol damage, but then I've also modified the gun a little bit too, so it's great.
Nice. So the crafting is great then. Let's touch that on quickly since kind of
Okay,
touched on that.
sure.
Uh,
Crafting, I guess it's kind of like what I remember from Fallout, I suppose. You get like a couple
mhm.
you can do for free on every tier, but then upgrade skills, get access to more things you can craft, and different sort of like, barrels, suppressors, whatever for your gun. And you can also modify your armor much in the same way. And so, yeah.
I would say it's a little different because you don't break down junk in the same way.
Right,
You
right.
just
You
pick
don't
up
break down
crafting
junk. Instead, you
items
have crafting items, those resources you get from different planets or
yep,
trade for or whatever. Right. Yeah.
or find lying around and
Sure.
says this is used for
Absolutely.
crafting, and then that gets broken down into the materials,
Yeah.
is what happens.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so the crafting is great. And speaking of equipment, is it true they fly now?
They
You
fly
fly
now?
now?
Oh, yeah. If you have the right perk, very handy perk, everybody. You can then get boost packs. There's all sorts of different kinds of boost packs you can get. They're all great, letting you just jump around and stuff. I really like it, being able to just jump around on different planets. It's great, especially with low gravity planets, right? I could just go up and just bounce around and whatnot. It's great. And then also just being able to fly around in combat is just amazing. It's so fun.
Boingy, boingy, boingy.
Boing,
Bounce all
boing,
around. It's
boing.
great. Yeah, good way to dodge. Absolutely.
Yes.
Apparently, also, I just read this. I'm going to add this. And when you get the gymnastics perk, I'm just going to throw this little tiny spoiler out there. You can do the slide as well. So,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
about that. I'll have to
I
check
didn't
that
either
out.
until I just read it. I'm like, oh man, I'm going for that one soon.
I'll have to now because I really
Yeah.
do enjoy sliding.
And do you deny the fact you have powers now? I'm sure the government will be looking for you, to run tests and all.
Don't tell the government, guys, but I have powers.
There's
But I'll
powers.
say there is it's great. All right. I love these powers. Because the game really opens up to where once you have the ability to unlock, once you get to this certain story point to where you get your first one, you then have the option to go unlock others. And so if you want more powers, completely up to you. And
Ooh,
so
cool.
but it's great though, because what I really like about it, as I was talking about earlier, this game has so many different elements of Fallout and Skyrim. One of the most memorable things about Skyrim is that you were the Dovahkiin, and you do all those different shouts, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
this makes me feel much the same way, but you're in space doing
It's
Dovahkiin
like
powers.
force. It's like the force. So what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that
Yeah,
works too, I
it's like
suppose.
the force.
But yeah, there's a pretty good variety from what I found, and I've probably I don't even know what percentage I found, but I've found a good handful, maybe a sixth, a fifth, a sixth, I'd say,
Wow.
maybe
So there's
even a
still a
little less.
bunch.
There's a lot, and
Okay.
I've gotten a good, I want to say 7 or 8 now, and they all have a really cool variety, so I can't wait to see what else there is.
Awesome. Cool. Now let's move on from regular combat to ship combat and flying. And there's space travel, huh? How'd you manage that? You have some sort of ship? Do others have ships? Can ships
Yeah, all
crash?
sorts of different ships. You
Do you hear
begin with a ship.
explosions in space?
Explosions in
Tell
space.
us all about it.
Right, yeah, there's definitely I'll say this. My biggest I guess problems with the game will come ultimately to some of the ship stuff.
Okay.
Uh ultimately uh the easiest way to travel around is by, just opening up your ship menu and being able to go, fast travel around, right? Going to
Yep.
someplace great, that's fine. But part of the time too, I really want to be immersed, and I really like it when you do try to do the manually takeoff, and that's fantastic too. Especially when you initiate those grab jumps, right? It's like a great sort of like little like Star Wars
Animation,
moment
yes.
almost, right?
Yeah.
Going into hyperspace. But the problem is with that though is like it's sometimes you can't lock on to everything that you want to without going into that menu, even though you can see some of the other systems around you. And so
Mm-hmm.
I do wish there's a little bit of immersion there, or being able to like or even being able to pinpoint where you want on the planet just by looking at it, I think would have been nice too. But then that comes to the worry of, well, how do you pinpoint somewhere mainly on the other side of the planet, right? So I understand that aspect too. But I would have liked some other ways to where I didn't have to rely on the menu as much to necessarily feel like fast traveling as much versus being able to get into the ship and go.
Yeah, like if you could like aim the ship towards the waypoint, hit A, and then
Yeah, well, you can do that with some of them. Whenever the
if they're not
problem
too
is
far away.
the problem is if there's multiple waypoints stacked on each other, or you're picking a very
Oh,
specific
right,
place
right, right, right,
on
right.
a
A
planet.
planet,
And
right?
so, but everywhere else you can do. Well, that's the other thing too. Is like I don't know about being able to just randomly pick a system that's in your grav jump range. Is the other thing. But there's sometimes where you could do it, and when I does, I feel like it just feels nicer than going into that menu, right? But I
Yes.
also understand some of the technicalities when it comes to trying to change some of that stuff too, right? Um,
Yeah,
but
like you can't go farther than your grav jump engine can take you. Your grav engine can take you. You
yeah, I
know,
mean, I understand that.
without stopping the jumps. Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. We understand that. That's
That's not
normal.
a
We
big
fine. Great.
right.
Yeah.
But
It's using your impulse engines to fly somewhere that you would like
yeah,
to do.
just more of just not having to open up the menu and just being able to click on the
Okay.
icons, which you sometimes can do, not always.
Yeah.
But
Just by
that's my
aiming
biggest
while
thing.
you're flying. Got
Right.
it. Okay.
So I just wish they incorporated more of that. But I mean, there's so much other stuff with ship stuff that you mentioned, right? That's great. Like I guess I'll just delve right into it, right? You have this ship customization, right? There's
Well,
also
no,
some...
no, no, no. Hold
No,
your
no,
horses
okay.
here. We have to get to some allegations here that you entered an NPC ship as it was taking off and made the game angry. How do you respond?
Oh, that made the game angry? Yeah, well, so there's these different encounters where you can go in and you can enemy ship is just landed on a planet. They have enemies out around the ship, but their docking bay's open. And so I made sure to kill the last one while I was inside the docking bay just to see what happened. Just I was in there, ship started to fly off and my game froze. So I do not recommend doing that, everybody.
Do not fly in NPC ships unless you're invited
Yes.
or you're docking in space,
Yes.
which is very cool to do. That you can dock enemy
Yeah.
ships. Yeah. Well, we're not going to get into that because that's something you have to experience for yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm not even going to spoil that at all. That's all I'm going to say. So now to that next part you wanted to talk about, but we need to address some more rumors that you can go to a planet like No Man's Sky and build a place to hang out just like No Man's Sky. I mean, is this just No Man's Sky? What's the sitch, dingus?
I I guess you can compare the two pretty closely. I don't feel like there's as many base building options, but at the same time, you might be able to unlock more. I want to say you can. So, but there is a nice bit of base building options. I built a base, I'd say, pretty fairly early on, just because I really wanted to and have a nice hub area, and it's really cool too. Because I don't think you can specifically mine a resource in No Man's Sky. I don't remember if you can do that or not. Maybe you can. But you can have different little like farms set up depending on where you set up your base, and so the base building feels really nice for sure. A nice bit of decorations and stuff. But I hope it's something that you can expand on. I want to say there is a skill that you might be able to. So
Awesome. And do you have a garage? Bet you have a pretty sick custom ride to go with that sweet pad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Garage. I guess the garage is the landing pad, so not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Custom rides though, right? Right.
Right.
Well,
The different ship
tell us
building,
about
right?
it. God damn it, dingus.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice customization and yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. It definitely takes a moment to figure out exactly all of what you need, right? Like, you need your like your little like landing like ramp docking area, you need your grav jump, you need your different engines. And the amount of engines that you need all depends on A, how fast you want to go, B, how big your ship is. And that also goes with the amount of different landing gears that you need to. So there's all sorts of different components that goes into the ship, but it's awesome because I felt like when I built a ship from scratch, I just built like a modified. I feel like ultimately is a beefier version of like what you already get, just because I wanted more storage space, and so that was my biggest thing. But I also added some things here and there too. But use there's been all over the internet all sorts of different awesome other creations people made, recreating the Millennium Falcon, recreating the Enterprise, and all sorts of other different stuff. Or even on the official showcase, they showed like the Ingrid Grimmaw ship, right? And so there's all these different awesome wacky possibilities for ships too. So you're not limited to where if you want to make something a particular shape, if you want to make something that's more on firepower, if you want something to be that's more of like a freight hauler, there's all sorts of different options that it allows you to pretty much do any of that. It's great.
Excellent. So sounds like it's the complete package. You paid $31.49 plus tax, along with your Game Pass Ultimate sub. So just like Gamora asked Thanos, was it worth it?
Was it worth it? You know what? With having that Game Pass already, and then which already has a solid lineup of games that it usually has every month, and then having, for me, one of my most anticipated games upgrading to be able to play it early, and its DLC, which I'm looking forward to seeing what that'll entail as well. What a steal for $30. I can't think of a better deal on the gaming market.
All right, so if you were to rate this game on a scale of 1 to 10, give it to us straight, Dingus. Give it to us straight.
Early impressions so far, I'd give it somewhere between, I guess, like 9. I'd say. I'm trying to decide if I'd give it an extra half or not, but it's really up there. I'd say there's two big things that kind of deducts it. I'd say, right. Number one, obviously you have all sorts of those different Bethesda bugs. The main ones that bother me are the couple times I've had it crash. But I think that's more stability things, because I've had both of those happen during transitions that are just like random, and like one of them was like on my ship, the other one's at New Atlantis that just randomly happened. So like nothing massive there. Or that other ship thing too. It's like, well, why could you get in a ship if it's just gonna freeze your game, right? And so certain things like that, but those will get fixed over time for sure, right? But then you're always gonna have those really fun Bethesda bugs, right? And that's what makes a Bethesda game special, right? Not those kinds of bugs I'm talking about. I'm talking about those ones that'll actually like, hey, I have to restart the game or it crashes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not the silly character transitions or characters walking into walls or vibrating or things floating. No. Or flipping around after they die.
Yeah. But the other main thing to why I'd say I deduct it all goes back to sort of what I was saying with the ship stuff too. It's like you have all this great customization I just talked about with the ship, right? But then it's like I want to use more of the ship sometimes. And that's why it's like, well, you travel by using a menu a lot. That's not you necessarily actually piloting your ship around. That's just you pressing buttons on the menu, right? And so a lot of those things with the ship is just random encounters, and so I wish there was a way, and maybe if I get into more certain kind of missions, there'd be more ship stuff involved, but I don't know, I just would like the ship to be integrated a little more without being so reliant on the travel menu. And so that's my biggest gripe with the game so far, but maybe that'll change if I realize more stuff I could do with the ship, or whatever, or if there's other sort of things that open up with what you could do while on a ship too. So we'll see.
Excellent. So a 9 out of 10. You hear that, haters that gave it everything low? We like this game a lot. Tis lots of fun. But just like anything, except for me, of course. Nah, who am I kidding? I'm not either. Nothing's perfect. But boy, Bethesda, you did a great job. And we heard it here from the Dingus. All the details on early access. I would have given you some more, but he played it way more than I did.
I played for...
Check this out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
played for like 26 hours so far, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Guys. Like I said, he does not like free time, folks.
Nope, not at all.
But make sure that you check out our Twitch. Make sure you check out our other videos here on YouTube's. Also, make sure you go to this charity link that's in the description. We are raising money for FMF and AID Global Association for World Autoinflammatory Awareness Month this September. Stay tuned for more information and more fun streams for that and other videos. Spencer, anything else you want to say?
No, just stay tuned. We'll be having lots of other stuff come to this channel, and stay tuned for everything that we have coming.
Thanks, guys. Make sure you click that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you later.